Hey there.
Hello.
Greetings!
Bye-bye. What you just witnessed is something that you will probably never going to see in Overwatch. A 5k collateral charge shot by Sojourn. In fact, the only time I've seen an unassisted collateral kill by Sojourn's railgun was all the way back in 2022, during an Overwatch League match by Merit. So it got me thinking, what kind of scenarios could theoretically happen in Overwatch but are so absurdly specific or complex that they're practically impossible to pull off? Let's find out. For this video, we'll be looking at both 5v5 and 6v6 game modes, with and without role lock, but with a maximum hero limit of 1 per team. I'll also be ignoring perks for the most part, since they can be changed or removed in the future seasons. That said, I'll make a few exceptions where they add something interesting, but overall, we'll be focusing mainly on base game mechanics. So as we just saw, it's highly unlikely for anyone to ever get a 5-man collateral kill with Sojourn's single railgun right click. Sure, we can say that it will be possible in combination with Zarya's Graviton Surge, but if we exclude it from the equation, then getting any sort of 5k with any weapon in the game is quite difficult, or borderline impossible. Of course, there are heroes who can easily secure a team wipe using their ultimates, like D.Va, Junkrat or Illari. But their ultimates cover a large area designed to hit multiple targets at once. So, if we exclude ultimates that cover a large area of damage, we are left with only a few heroes who could theoretically secure a 5k with a single shot or use of an ability. Some of the hero abilities like Ashe, Bastion or Tracer also deal damage in a radius, but they are comparably not as big as the ones of D.Va or Junkrat. Phrase Take Aim Bolt can also damage nearby enemies, but its explosion radius is much tighter in comparison to others. As for the other heroes, Brigitte can get a 5k with a Shield Bash ultimate, Genji with a single use of Swift Strike, and if we also include Winston's Chain Lightning perk, then so he can as well. So yes, all of these heroes can theoretically score a 5 kill. However, it is highly unlikely to achieve this due to the fact that not only do you need to have 5 enemies in a very close proximity to each other, especially for heroes like Freya or Tracer, but they also all have to be at low HP and your teammates must not be shooting at them. But you know what is even more difficult to pull off? Let me show you this short clip. What you just saw is probably one of the most obscure, difficult and borderline impossible Brigitte techs that you can do. The basic principle of this tech is that you are able to block any incoming damage from the left side of your screen, outside of your view with your shield. The way Brig's shield works is quite straightforward. Upon pressing the button, she puts her shield in front of herself. However, if you were to start swinging your weapon and then put your shield up, there are a couple of frames where Brig's shield comes from her left side, instead from the front. The timing, however, is extremely tight, but if you are successful, it can't block any damage coming from your left side, which is mostly going to be something that you do by accident. Since I don't think it's viable to practice this very niche tech when you can just, turn around and block the damage. But if you, for some weird reason, want to reliably block any incoming damage from your left side while facing forwards, then it is possible to force your shield to appear on its left side if you get yourself stuck in a low ceiling area that forces your hero model to crouch. Like underneath these stairs in Havana or on top of this clock. Again, no idea how or why you want to do this. Maybe you want to cosplay Reinhardt and protect your Bastion from taking damage, I guess, Hanzo is quite of a RNG or luck-based hero. Let's be honest, he doesn't take that much skill to play. All you gotta do is spam one corner of the map and eventually you'll get an elimination. And chances of you getting a kill this way are pretty high, I would say. But one of the rare things that Hanzo is capable of doing is sticking an enemy hero with a sonic arrow. That's crazy, I know. But did you know that there's a little chance for the stuck arrow to change its owner? If the player with a sonic arrow ends up dying or cleansing themselves, and if there's another hero nearby, that player can catch the falling sonic arrow and stick it for themselves. And this is not actually unique to just Hanzo, but also to other heroes with abilities that can get stuck on you, such as Tracer's Pulse Bomb or Junker Queen's Knife. Funnily enough, it is even more rare to have Genji deflect these projectiles after they fall off of their teammates. By the way, did you know that it is possible for Hanzo to kill you through the wall? And no, I'm not talking about his dragons. You may know or have seen it before, but whenever Hanzo uses his ultimate, his arrow goes through the wall, and that arrow can still do damage even if you are hiding and thinking you are safe. And it actually does the full damage of a fully charged arrow, meaning that you can even kill somebody through a wall with a headshot, making it one of the rarest kills you can get. Another thing that you almost certainly have a very low chance of pulling off is killing an enemy with your dragons twice. This is mostly possible on push maps. You see, when the enemy team captures the first checkpoint, you and your entire team receive an instant respawn. So if you were to die to a Hanzo dragon, let's say here next to a mega health pack area on New Queen Street, and then unknowingly take the same exit where the dragon is traveling to, you can indeed die to Hanzo dragon again. Tracer has one of the fastest building ultimates in the game, and that is if we exclude Baby Diva. But if we were to take Echo and copy Tracer, then in this form you build Tracer ultimate even faster. Assuming you hit most of your shots, it is possible to build about 4 Tracer ultimates in 15 seconds. But if we were to give Echo a couple of damage buffs, then it is possible to go from building 4 to 8 ultimates instead. Also, if both teams are running similar team composition, that includes 2 Echoes on both teams, then you can, in theory, have 4 of the same ultimates being used at the same time. Like having 4 Winton ultimates. Or 4 Bobs. Or even 4 life power trees. I love all that visual clutter. The reason why this particular scenario is unlikely to happen is due to the requirement of both Echoes having their ultimates ready, as well as copying the same hero, and the copy targets need to have their ultimates ready and used at the same time as well. Alright, so we all know that Diva is able to eat bullets and projectiles that are shot by the enemy team heroes, while Genji is able to do basically the same thing, but deflecting all of those back to the enemy team instead. So what can possibly happen if you're playing 6v6, no Rollock game mode, and there are 10 out of 12 heroes who have a projectile or hit scan based ultimate, and everybody on both teams decide to use an ultimate at the same time? It is actually possible for Diva to eat 10 ultimates in one go. Now, I want you all to look at this inconspicuously looking Widowmaker's Venom Mine, just lying here on the ground, but there is something wrong about the placement of this Venom Mine. Can you spot it? It is just outside of the opposing team's spawn room, and you may notice that the spawn doors are currently closed. And what do you think happens next? Yep. The enemy hero can actually trigger it and start taking damage. This is theoretically the fastest way you can deal damage on the control map. But you're probably wondering, how is this even possible? Well, in order to execute this, you have to be on Nepal's Sanctum map. And the following map stage has to be Nepal Shrine, which is basically a 50-50 gamble that you'll be able to get it. Then, on Nepal's Sanctum, you have to make it all the way to the enemy team spawn and stay in this spot and hope that your team manages to win a round without you. Or lose in case the score is 1-0 for your team. I do not endorse throwing of any kind, so we're clear. When the round ends, you'll be presented with the current score graphic. And if you turn off your HUD, you can again see everything around yourself until the game transitions you to the next map stage. So while the game is stuck in this transitioning phase, you can resume control of your hero and throw your Venom Mine in this general direction towards the next map stage, which happens to be Nepal Shrine. This will cause the Venom Mine to transition alongside with all other players. If you try doing this before the round ends, then the Venom Mine will be removed after you move to the next stage.
3, 2, 1.
So, if you manage to pull this off, the last thing you have to hope for is that the enemy players won't notice the Venom Mine. And if they don't, then congratulations! You've just done one of the most rarest thing you can do in Overwatch. And your reward is 10% ultimate charge. Wow. Crazy. If you like playing Baptiste, then you may have noticed that his immortality field disc likes to bounce off of things from time to time. And this silly bounce mechanic can lead to one of the silliest techs in the entire game, that you will not use a single time because of how stupid it actually is. Yep, that's pretty much it, and trust me, it requires specific angle, timing and map. So it does require at least some level of skill and luck at the end of the day. Now, let's talk about maps. What do you think are some of the most unlikely scenarios that can happen in Overwatch maps? Well, the first scenario that doesn't happen that often is being able to end a match with a draw on payload, hybrid and push. And when I'm talking about hybrid maps, I do not mean drawing if both teams do not get a single tick on the first initial point. No, I'm talking about a payload stage of a hybrid map. And this also applies to regular payload maps as well. There are two scenarios where you can draw on the payload stage. The first one requires both attacking teams to just, well, not move the payload at all. This is actually useful in case one team has a cheater on it and both teams agree to draw a map. The second way you can draw on payload requires you to cap the checkpoint. When you capture a payload checkpoint, your payload stops moving for a brief period of time. This means that the attacking team is guaranteed to have a payload stop at the exact distance every single time that you capture that specific checkpoint. Which means that if an attacking team captures the first point and doesn't make any further progress, and if the same situation happens to the other team when it's their turn to attack, then the match will result in a draw. This is extremely rare to happen during the initial first two rounds of the game, since when a team captures a point, they get extra time, meaning that the defending team literally has to stand on the payload for the next few minutes. It is way more likely to happen during the fourth attack-defense round. If both teams make it to the end of a payload map, resulting in a score of 3-3, then the third round of attack-defense commences. During this and the following rounds, attacking team does not receive any extra time upon capturing a point, making draws more likely to happen. But when it comes to push game mode, it's way more simple. All that needs to happen is both teams capturing the first point and not moving it anywhere further. And even if that happens and both teams end up with the same distance, the match is not going to end until one team gets a further distance, or if both teams end up killing each other at the same time. And if somebody decides to leave the push bot. Genji and his deflect ability alone can create some of the rarest situations ever, as we've already seen. When you kill Junkrat, he drops bombs that can deal a total of 300 damage, that can also be deflected. Meaning that there is a possibility of killing Junkrat and deflecting his death bombs onto one of his teammates. Or yourself. We can also do something similar with Bastion's ultimate. If for some weird reason you decide to position and angle yourself inside of his ultimate, you can in fact try to deflect and kill an enemy player with it. But the one I would consider to be the most unlikely one is this one. Yep, I'm yet to ever see anyone deflect Cassidy's fully charged Deadeye onto Primal Winston. And speaking of Winston, I believe he has the only ability in the game that is able to do just one damage, and that is his jump pack. When you use this ability, upon doing the initial jump, any enemies in close proximity will take just one damage. It is also possible to do this upon landing as well, but it can be a bit more tricky. So if you ever get a kill with the initial jump, then congratulations, you've scored one of the rarest kills in Overwatch. And lastly, I want to show you all one very unique situation that can in theory happen, but the conditions for it to happen are so unbelievably specific that we'll most likely never get to see it happen in the actual match. This is Kiriko. One of her abilities allows her to teleport to her teammates within 35 meters from her and the target. But you can in fact extend this range even further. If you pair Kiriko with any of these heroes, then by timing your Swift Step ability with your teammates teleport, you can actually teleport at the same time with them, making you go further than 35 meters. This alone can be tricky to execute, but what if I were to tell you that there is more to this very obscure tech? What if I told you that with a click of one button, you can go all the way from Hanamura's first point to second point? If you are on Kiriko and your DPS teammates are on Echo and Reaper, and there's also Kiriko on the opposing team, we then can create the following unlikely situation. First, your Echo has to copy the enemy Kiriko, then your Reaper has to start teleporting. Meanwhile, your Echo has to time it correctly with Reaper's teleport in order to teleport with him at the same time. And finally, you have to do the very same thing, but teleport at the same time as Echo. If all of that is done correctly, then you will teleport from first point all the way to the second point. Absolute cinema, if you ask me. I actually dare anyone to replicate this in the actual game. I think this is one of the coolest and incredibly rare, borderline impossible things you can do in Overwatch. And that was it. If you think that I've missed anything, then feel free to comment down below. Thank you to my YouTube members for supporting this channel. If you'd like to support me and my silly ideas, then feel free to become a channel member, or you can join my Discord server and become part of my silly community. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I shall see you in the next one.